It's getting hot out there, and a lot of players in Major League Baseball are starting to heat up both on the mound and at the plate. And then there's the flip side. We're seeing some guys who are off to good starts cool way down, and some guys just straight up struggle. Is it time to panic or not? Let's start with the Yankees. And a guy that a lot of people were hoping would really start to take off in June because he just came back not too long ago is Luis Severino, who could be arguably the number 2 guy behind Ace Garrett Cole in that rotation. So much talent there, but so many injuries over the years. So this latest one, he finally got over. He's got 4 starts under his belt, and the first 2, he looked sharp. And if you stashed him or if you grabbed him off the waiver wire, you were pretty happy. If he was in your lineup the last 2 starts, you're not happy. After giving up only 2 runs in his first 11 innings, he's given up 11 runs in his last 9 innings. He's just gotten pounded the last 2 starts. Now, it would be understandable if it was the other way around, maybe, having to knock some rust off those first couple of starts if he wasn't looking good and then got into shape, but it's been the opposite. So what is going on here? Why all of a sudden is he just losing control? Well, on the one hand, he actually hasn't lost control. The walks aren't the issue. He's only walked 3 batters in the last 2 games. The strikeouts have been decent too. So what it is, well, it's really simple to figure out what the answer is here. It's the home run ball. He's given up 3 home runs in each of the last 2 starts. That's right, 6 homers in the last 2 starts. We like for pitchers to be in the zone, not nibble and be, working counts too long, getting deep into games, putting batters on base with the base on balls. But in this case, a little bit too much in the zone, Luis. So the problem is not really even that he's putting meatballs out there. His meatball percentage isn't any higher than it has been the last few years. Yes, by the way, meatball percentage is an actual StatCast stat. Basically, too many fastballs high in the zone. They're hittable. He's got a good fastball, but when you leave it up in the zone too often, sometimes good batters will take advantage. So if you look right now, his profile is ugly. You don't like to see blue. There's a lot of it. He's getting barreled because, again, those home runs, that's the issue. But the good news is I think this is correctable. This is something where it's just a matter of location, and he has not been wild. Injuries don't seem to be bothering him at this point. It's just pitch selection, pitch location. He needs to work the ball a little bit lower in the zone, and he can do this. So my panic level on him is really not that high. In fact, I think this might present a good buy low opportunity. Staying in the Bronx, let's look at a slugger here you'd think would be solid, consistent, but Anthony Rizzo, getting off to a pretty good start this year, is starting to really cool down in a big way. He's hitting 125 over his last 50 plate appearances. One thing I point to a lot when you're talking about the highs and lows that come with this long season that we have here in baseball, and rolling windows is a good way to take a snapshot of how a guy has performed lately, especially relative to how he was performing. Well, if you look at the leaderboards or the bottom of the leaderboards, Anthony Rizzo is near the bottom for all of these expected stats in terms of batting average, slugging, and xwOBA, weighted on base average. Now, on the whole, his season-long stats are fine. I mean, not standing out either way, to be honest. And then, like I said, as of late, really bad and just kind of counteracting what he's done. So this is just part of the roller coaster ride. His season-long stats, he's hitting 269. He's got 11 home runs, 32 RBIs. You really can't complain about that from a guy who's kind of a back-end option, a fallback at first base. You know what you're getting from him, 20-plus home runs, a decent average, pretty good spot in that lineup. Now, granted, when Aaron Judge comes back, I think that should just help. Maybe Rizzo is feeling a little bit more pressure. Maybe he's just not getting as good of pitches to hit because Stanton was out for a while. Judge, of course, still out. So many injuries there. This Yankees lineup doesn't look like it did on opening day. You look at those important surface stats, his exit velocity, right there where it was the last few seasons. His launch angle, identical to last season. There's nothing that really jumps out as a cause for concern here. Only thing I'll notice is that his strikeout rate is a little bit elevated. Usually a guy who doesn't strike out a lot for a slugger, 22.9%, that's high for Rizzo. And as it stands now, that would be his career high. He can bring that down. It might just be due to his recent cold streak. So the plate discipline, not as good, but in general, you're going to get pretty much what you paid for in draft day. So I wouldn't panic here. You know what? I was surprised because I've said this before. All the fantasy leagues I'm in are super competitive. Anytime I talk about a guy, even a rookie who just got called up, he's pretty much gone off the waiver wire. I hardly get a chance to get these quality players before I talk about them. Well, Rizzo was just dropped in one of my leagues, which I couldn't believe. So I put in a claim because look, this is a buy low opportunity also. Now, I don't say low because it's not super low, and I don't want to buy in too much expecting some sort of a second half breakout, Don't worry here. Just kind of set and forget. He'll be fine. Now, I will just tell you straight up, there's another left-handed slugging first baseman I am worried about, and that is Rowdy Tellez from Milwaukee. The big reason is just losing playing time. We all of a sudden are seeing him sit more and more against lefties and pretty much not playing at all against them. Thought he would be really an everyday first baseman. Had a pretty solid season last year. Thought he could build on that, and he was good early in the season. But man, not only is he slowing down, but he is sitting a lot more than you'd like. You can't keep him in there on an everyday basis. What's unexpected is who he's losing playing time to. Owen Miller, who's kind of just a utility guy, came over from Cleveland. Well, he's been playing second, third, some outfield, and now he's playing first base, and he's the right-handed bat that comes in when the Brewers are facing a left-handed pitcher. And hey, Owen Miller has played really well this year, so you can't blame them. They're playing the numbers. It works to their advantage. It doesn't work to your advantage if you own Tellez and you were hoping that you could just leave him in there every day. He's only taken 35 at-bats versus left-handed pitching this year, and he's hitting 171. So you can understand where this split comes from. The really bad part is that he's not really doing that great against right-handers on the whole, only hitting 238, which means his season-long average is 226. His expected batting average is in the 24th percentile. He's really below average on most marks. Even his barrel rate isn't that great. Now, this is kind of a streaky guy. He could always go on a binge. One good week for him will elevate his numbers massively. But you got to hope that there's a week that comes where the Brew Crew is facing a rotation that's loaded with right-handers, because that's the only way it's going to happen. So Tellez, he's not necessarily somebody you want to drop, but you've got to have him in a league where it's daily lineups, and you're going to be able to monitor and have somebody else that you can put in. Like, look, if you have Owen Miller, that would be perfect. You can just mix and match with these guys, but it's kind of a pain, to be honest. I know I don't always have time to check my lineup every morning to see if a guy's in the starting lineup, so Tellez is not somebody that you can just completely cut ties with if you're in a 12-team or deeper league, but man, you definitely have to be worried about the rest of the season. And maybe one of the biggest drop-offs from early season to right now, talking about June and really the last few weeks, is Dansby Swanson. Remember when he was looking like an MVP candidate earlier in the year? The Cubs looked like they were bound for the playoffs. Yeah, that's what overreacting to the early part of the season will do to you. Swanson's rolling windows are kind of scary. The batting average is way down. His expected slugging is less than half of what it was from the previous 50 plate appearances. It's like the power has just evaporated. Now, part of it is that he was so hot to start the season, he was bound to fall, and it's going to look a lot worse compared to how he did. Of course, when a guy has such high highs, the lows look worse in comparison, but still, he really has not done much lately. Since June began, he's only batting 189 with 2 extra base hits. And sure, maybe you shouldn't expect a ton of power with him to begin with, but he's not giving you speed to offset that. Since May began, over the last 6 weeks, only 1 stolen base. This is looking like a player that, if you sold high on him early in the year, you're pretty happy. Granted, he could definitely come back around. I'm not really pushing the panic button here on him yet because I think he'll be a solid contributor. Average isn't really an issue. Just going through a cold spell, I think. He'll give you some pop, hopefully swipe at least another couple of bags, and his place in that lineup will guarantee that he'll score a lot of runs, and that's really what you're getting from him is average plus the runs scored. I do believe that Cody Bellinger was a big part of this lineup. Him being out the last couple of weeks has kind of sapped the life out of the offense. We've seen when he went out, a lot of the runs kind of went with him. Hopefully he bounces back soon and we see this Cubs offense come back to life. And let's throw a pitcher in here. Mitch Keller has been great this year, finally putting it all together until the last few starts. Pittsburgh, another one of those teams that looked so good early in the season, got so much hype because Pittsburgh's never good, and now are they falling back to earth? Is Keller falling back hard also? After his first 9 starts this year, he had a 2.44 ERA, 0.97 whip. That's ace-like numbers. And then the regression hit. 6 runs in 6 innings, 4 runs in 6 innings, 5 runs in 5 1/3 innings, 3 straight bad starts, and all of a sudden his ratios were inflated. So just when you were wishing, man, I should have sold on him if I had him, but then he comes back with a really good start, only 1 run in 7 innings against the Mets. So what are we getting here from Keller, and should we even be concerned? Was that just a blip on the radar, or is it kind of a warning sign of things to come? As much as I'd like to just warn you away from Keller based on the last few years of getting bit by him and keeping our hopes up just to be let down, I think we have to buy into what we've seen for the most part. I mean, not just this one bounce back start, but man, his K rate has gone way up, almost 30%. And he's commanding the zone. He's doing everything that he is capable of doing. This is a guy who is a high-end prospect. We've just been waiting for him to finally figure it out. It looks like he has. So I don't want to overreact to a couple of bad starts when for the most part, on the whole this season, he has been really good and the numbers point to him continuing to be good. In fact, his expected ERA is even lower than his actual ERA at the moment. This is somebody who I would say if you got a nervous owner and you're looking for a bargain, perhaps a guy who can be a mid-rotation arm, a solid player. I know people look at this year's numbers, but some people are still going to be not convinced that Keller is legit because of his past. I'm going to say with cautious optimism, let's look at what Keller's done for the most part this season, not buy too much into those bad starts. I think he will be fine the rest of the way. Go ahead and keep him if you have him, hold tight, and if you're looking for a bargain, maybe go ahead and make an offer for him. And while you're worrying about those players, these guys are the ones you should be picking up right now, top waiver wire ads for this week.